And we got to remember that we're also getting a lot of savings from Doge. So there's some estimates that Doge can find almost $1 trillion worth of savings just through waste, fraud, and abuse. What that's going to do is it's going to give us a lot of room with the CBO score to go after some of the priorities that the president had on the campaign trail, whether it's no tax on tips, the other programs.
Pennsylvania Congressman and House Chief Deputy Whip Guy Reschenthaler on this program yesterday, suggesting that Doge savings could help pay for the tax cuts included in President Trump's big, beautiful bill. However, Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Muser doubling down on a millionaire's tax hike instead, telling Fox News Digital, quote, any adjustments in taxes to accomplish these goals should be considered. Here was what Muser told me on this program last week. Watch.
The Tax Cut and Jobs Act under President Trump brought it to 37 just on income levels over $750,000, I think it is. So by bringing it from the 37 as we're redoing the tax plan to perhaps 38.6, right? It would still be 1% less than it was before. Right? The president is determined not to have a standard, if you will, Republican, and this is my view from what I based upon him. I'm not putting words in his mouth, a standard Republican style budget. What he wants to see is something that is in the interest of all of America.
So joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Laurel. Congresswoman, your reaction, would you be open to discussions or support something like a millionaire's tax, which is what Muser is discussing? Would you be open to raising the corporate tax rate, which has also been floated by Republican colleagues?
Well, I think what you're hearing there is that right now in Congress, there is a very healthy and robust debate about all of the ways in which we can be working to get America back on the fiscal trajectory that it needs to be on. One thing that's important from the perspective of taxation is to really understand that we cannot tax our way or revenue our way out of this problem. We have a spending problem in Washington, D.C. So the most important thing that we need to do is look at where we can cut excessive spending, where we can find that fraud, waste, and abuse. And another thing that's happening with Doge that's so critical is first step finding that fraud, waste, and abuse, but also the modernization of government, which you touched on in your earlier segment. Modernization of government systems and programs so that we can ensure they're getting into the hands of the intended recipient. They're being administered in a way that is efficient, that is accurate with a high degree of integrity. There is a tremendous opportunity for us to improve the functioning of government and reduce our spending in that way.
But you know, I think that it all comes together, and I applaud the work of Doge. It's incredible what they have been finding and the work that Elon Musk has done, even at great risk to himself and his employees and Tesla owners across the country. But at the same time, it is about the large programs that are really the main culprit here in the budget, and that's Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. So I want to ask you about this, because Republican lawmakers are also considering a plan that would save money by rolling back some federal funding for Medicaid. Not everybody's on board with this. I want you to watch this.
When the Dems expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, they made that percentage match 90-10. So what we have talked about is moving that 90% level of the expansion back towards the more traditional levels of 50. Nobody would be kicked off of Medicaid as long as the governors decided that they wanted to continue to fund the program.
A state like New York would have to pay more for Medicaid and that the federal government would pay less. Do you have a position on that before you go?
Hell no. New York is a donor state. We pay more into the federal government than we get back. I'm adamantly opposed to changing the FMAP floor from 50% federal share to 45% federal share. That will be a hard no.
But Congressman, I want to get your thoughts on that, because even though Congressman Lawler is opposed to any changes, you know, Austin Scott's position here is that there is a way that we can do meaningful savings and put more responsibility on the states in general when it comes to Medicaid funding.
So Medicaid is intended to be a partnership between federal government and state government. And to be sure, there are some states that are better partners, that are doing a better job contributing to the Medicaid program, that are doing a better job ensuring that only eligible Americans are receiving those benefits. But here's what's important. House Republicans are having this conversation, but we are very committed to ensuring that we're saving and strengthening the Medicaid program and that those benefits are getting into the hands of the most vulnerable and that they are protected with whatever we do going forward. So these are conversations that we're having, certainly within the Energy and Commerce Committee right now. But I'll tell you, this is another thing that goes back to ensuring that our programs are working efficiently. Years ago, I was a federal prosecutor here in Tampa, and we would prosecute program fraud. But we had to find those cases one at a time because of a family member or a neighbor or somebody. And what DOJ is doing, when we take technology and use it to review how we're administering these programs, our ability to detect the fraud, waste, and abuse increases exponentially. So that will absolutely be the first step that we take in making sure that these programs are safe, secure, solvent, is finding the people who should not be benefit recipients in the first place, getting them off of these programs, and that will help ensure that we have adequate resources to really protect the most vulnerable who need this kind of support.
So I do applaud you for saying that. Obviously, it's not about, cutting benefits. You want people to, obviously, that need Medicaid to be on it. I also applaud the fact that many of you and your colleagues have said that you could change the work requirements. I think that's a great discussion, and I look forward to watching your work as well in all of this, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We've got some breaking news we've got to get to. Thank you, ma'am.